I'm sure many of us have, at some point, been told that our hobbies, our passions, or even our personalities don't fit our gender. Guys being told that they can't play with dolls, girls being told that being rowdy is only something boys do. It has happened for decades, probably, unfortunately, won't be changing anytime soon. But what if I told you that My Dress Up Darling, a story that on the surface looks like a typical fanservice show, would tackle the subject in deeper and more interesting ways than pretty much any other anime I've ever seen? I've seen many people on different forms of the internet call the show booner content and made for the male gaze, but I don't think that assessment could be further from the truth. Yes, the show contains fanservice, and yes, that fanservice often isn't entirely necessary to move on the plot, but I think in its entirety, it does serve to further the narrative and the story Shinichi Fukuda is trying to tell. And hidden behind the fanservice are some very well written characters, ones that resonate with me and I'm sure many others on a deep and profound level. Characters that you wouldn't be able to learn to appreciate and love if you wouldn't give the show a chance. And just as the show subverts the expectations for itself, so do the characters in the show. Today, we will take a look at what makes My Dress Up Darling so special, how it uses fanservice to its advantage, and how it subverts viewers' expectations about it. If you like these type of videos, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on any future uploads. Now, to start this up, I do want to make one thing clear. Fanservice is obviously a very big part of the show and plays no small part in making the show famous. I'm sure many people started getting interested in and watching the show due to the fanservice. But I would argue that My Dress Up Darling's fanservice serves a purpose beyond that, and is actually an integral part of the story. Cosplaying is a hobby that, whether you like it or not, automatically brings some amount of fanservice with it. Now, how much of it you choose to show on screen when making a show about it is up to you, but pretending it isn't there would be disingenuous. There's obviously the fact that there are cosplays that show a lot of skin, but what many might not think about is that the preparation for the cosplay, taking measurements, trying out the outfit, is something that requires showing a certain amount of skin as well. Now, some might say that part is gratuitous or unnecessary, but I disagree. My Dress Up Darling is a show about cosplaying, giving viewers insight into the nitty-gritty of how cosplaying works, from how to design costumes to how to do the makeup. And to properly convey that information, some amount of skin shown is something that is necessary to give the viewers a full picture. Showing Marin's body and process helps viewers understand real issues cosplayers face, normalizing cosplay culture instead of sensationalizing it. I think the main thing that differentiates My Dress Up Darling from other shows that feature fanservice is that the fanservice in Dress Up Darling doesn't feel exploitative at all. In other shows, female characters get objectified, their bodies exposed to others with no agency of their own to speak of. But that isn't the case at all here. Instead of it being her objectified against her will, it's a form of her own self-expression. Her cosplays show her love for the characters she's portraying, even if the outfits are a bit revealing. And the narrative respects that. Instead of making her wanting to cosplay the butt of a joke, it's treated with the seriousness it needs to be. In fact, I'd argue that cosplaying is a huge part of Marin's personality, defines who she is, and plays a huge role in making her as awesome as she is. Marin looks, dresses, and talks like your typical Gyaru. And with that look, there come certain expectations about how that person would or should act. Many, whose only experience with Gyarus would be anime, might think that Marin would turn out to be a bit shallow, only being interested in her looks and talking about boys. But those stereotypes couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, Marin is kind, cheerful, and most importantly, deeply passionate about her hobbies. She's also confident in herself, never being afraid to share her hobbies with others, and also, in turn, not judging others for the hobbies that they enjoy. In doing so, she completely subverts expectations of what the viewers would expect from a character like her. Behind the stylish, extroverted exterior is a wholesome, kind, and supportive personality. The hobby Marin is really into is, as you might guess, cosplay and otaku culture as a whole. It would be easy for her to want to hide that. There certainly is a lot of stigma around that type of media, so it's a hobby that a lot of people would have trouble admitting they partake in. But not Marin. She not only loves anime and cosplaying, but she also shares her passion with the world. And the best part, the people around her, her friends, classmates, don't judge her for it. Quite the opposite, in fact. They support her when it matters, not just tolerating the hobby, but appreciating it themselves. All in all, Marin is one of, if not my favorite recent female main characters. She's a walking contradiction, fashionable yet nerdy, confident yet vulnerable. She not only challenges genre tropes, but also genre stereotypes. And with that, she proves that fanservice doesn't have to be objectifying. However, while Marin is undoubtedly the star of the show, Gojo is just as, if not more interesting, in my opinion. If Marin is someone who defies expectations, Gojo is someone who shatters them. At first glance, he looks like a typical, quiet, reserved male lead. Oftentimes in anime, characters like him get sidelined for characters the fans view as more interesting, leading them to staying pretty one-dimensional. But that's not the case at all with Gojo. His shyness is not an inherent character trait, but a result of something that deeply scarred him when he was a child. He was mocked for liking Hina dolls, his big passion making him scared of opening up about it ever again. Just like Marin's passion shapes and influences who she is as a person, the same can be said for Gojo. His dream is to one day take over his grandfather's shop, becoming a Hina doll craftsman himself. And while the show could portray it as weakness, playing up his passion for a girly hobby as a joke, it portrays it as a beautiful, intricate, and respect-worthy thing it is. However, while he does truly love this job, his childhood experience has made him a bit insecure. At the start of the series, he believes that his passion makes him weird, that because of it, no one could ever accept him. That's why he went out of his way to hide it from his classmates. However, throughout the show, he goes through an admirable character arc. He goes from almost feeling ashamed of his passion to slowly starting to see the value of it, and by the end, expresses pride in his work and learns to open up not only about his passion, but his emotions in general. And the catalyst for that change, you guessed it, it was Marin. These two not only have amazing chemistry with each other, but they also complement each other perfectly. They have quite contrasting personalities. Marin is extroverted and confident, while Gojo is more introverted and self-doubting. And while the differences are played up a bit for laughs, it's just as, if not more important, to their respective character growths. Gojo helps Marin realize her dreams of cosplaying, while Marin helps Gojo come out of his shell and gain confidence in himself and his work. And while Marin and Gojo's relationship certainly is the most important in the show, there's one other character with huge influence on Gojo might go a bit under the radar. Ever since the death of his parents, Gojo has lived with his grandpa, and he's not only been his emotional support, but he's also introduced him to and taught him to follow his passion, craft Hina dolls. But what stands out the most about him is his willingness to support Gojo in whatever he's trying to do. It would be very easy for him to disapprove of him using his years of training and experience for something like cosplaying. Instead, he supports him and even encourages him to try out new things to broaden his horizons. Similarly to Gojo, there's another character who has had his life shaped by having a feminine hobby. Chitose Amano, or Amane Himino as she likes to be called in cosplay circles, is someone with quite the feminine build. Since childhood, he'd been bullied for it, lowering his self-esteem. But after a while, found an outlet for it: cosplay. To be more specific, cross-dressing cosplay. His sister helped him with putting on makeup, then introduced him to cosplay. Over time, it became his way to overcome his insecurities about his looks. However, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshines. A girlfriend of his discovered his hobby and called it creepy, subsequently leading to a breakup. This is also why he, similarly to Gojo, is a bit shy and doesn't really like to talk about his hobby that much. And just like with Gojo, it would have been so easy for the author to not take this personality trait seriously, to use him as a comic relief character whose entire personality is played off as a joke. But that's not the case at all. His internal struggles are treated with the seriousness they deserve. It's not just about, oh, this character is dressed funny. It's about identity, acceptance, and self-worth. And not only that, he also plays a pretty vital part in the character development of both Gojo and Marin. He helps Gojo expand his knowledge on what cosplaying is and can be, even helping him with learning some new techniques. But he also shows him that someone with his kind of societal pressure and low self-esteem can still succeed in the world of cosplaying. And for Marin, he's a sort of reassurance. A reassurance that cosplay is a valid form of self-expression, no matter your walk of life or gender. And last, but certainly not least, we have two characters who might be my favorite of the entire show, Sashuna and Shinshu Inui. These two sisters, in my opinion, perfectly encapsulate how good the show is at using its characters to subvert the audience's expectations. Sashuna Inui is a well-known and respected cosplayer in online circles, also known as Juju. When you see her, you might think she's a young, childlike girl, certainly younger than Marin and Gojo at least. But that's not the case. She's the older of the two sisters, also for sure the more mature one of the two. But that discrepancy between looks and personality often creates insecurity. For example, she's unsure about cosplaying anything that isn't magical girls since she fears she wouldn't have the required body type. But while her personality can be a bit standoffish at times, over time she does open up a bit, at least to Marin and Gojo, because behind that serious and professional facade is someone who just loves cosplaying with her whole being, who just wants to honor her favorite shows. Shinshu Inui, on the other hand, couldn't be more different from Sajuna, at least looks-wise. Although she is the younger sister, she's much taller and much more physically developed. And yet, she also feels like her body is a hindrance to her partaking in cosplaying, because most characters she wants to play are small and delicate. And since she thinks she wouldn't look right, she hides her own interest in cosplaying. Again, the parallels with Gojo's shame about doll making are quite obvious. Feeling of loving something, but feeling excluded from it because of one's gender, body type, or societal expectations is something a lot of us feel after all. However, in what's probably one of my favorite moments of the entire series, she does finally decide to cosplay a character. This not only gives her confidence and makes her realize that she can in fact participate in this hobby she loves, but also strengthens her bond with her sister. These two, in my opinion, perfectly portray the main themes of the series as well. From struggling with your own appearance to struggling with society's expectations of you and fearing their judgment. Those themes stretch through the entire show, with every important character facing these challenges at one point or another. While the show, at first glance, looks like a light-hearted, edgy romance comedy, in reality, it is so much more deep. Because while fanservice plays a big part in the show, beneath that is a story about acceptance. A story about your passions and how you should follow them, even if they don't fit society's view of what you should do. From Gojo learning to be proud of his craft, Marin embracing her passion for otaku media, to the Inui Sisters and Chitose overcoming their insecurities regarding their own body. Each of these characters has a story worth telling. In the end, My Dress Up Darling isn't just about cosplay. Rather, it's about the importance of not hiding who you are and instead showing your true self. Thanks for watching.